The whole system is collapsing right before our eyes, ladies and gentlemen. If you look at the 30-year Treasury, the yield had not been at 5.18% since the financial crisis 18 years ago. We have not had a recession as such in all of those years. And the warning signs that could lead to something similar are increasing day by day. The American stock market has closed in the red. President Trump has new comments regarding the Iran geopolitical tensions. Inflation expectations are going up, and the chances of a rate hike are being solidified with a 2-year bond reaching a yield of 4.12%, all while Bitcoin is trading at a critical level where if this blue line of support is lost, we could see a repeat of January 2025, 2026, where Bitcoin crashed by a total pain of 33%. If those topics sound interesting to you, do make sure to destroy the like button. Let's see if we can reach 500 likes, Crypto Kids, and subscribe for daily content where you will be fed 10-minute videos that give you everything you need to know from a macro point of view, from a political point of view, from a crypto industry point of view, that all tie into my Bitcoin price extrapolations. No other channel does it like us, Crypto Kids, so make sure to subscribe and support and watch every single video. A big shout out to many of you who already do that. With that said, let's start off with the Bitcoin price action, and then we'll get into the treasuries and why they're even important. Bitcoin on the daily has retested and rejected from the 200 daily moving average. You know why I'm concerned about that, because we made detailed videos covering the 200 daily moving average strategy, so I will not talk about that moving average in this video. We'll do something contrarian. We will actually not talk about momentum at all. We'll talk about volume-based analysis. I will channel your focus into the VWAP, a tool that I recently started using upon a suggestion from a friend. The blue line of the VWAP looks into where people and traders will go back into an area of break even. Sadly, in bear markets, Bitcoin likes to trap those traders and investors. Whenever investors reach a break even, Bitcoin gives them an opportunity to sell, but shortly after ends up going much lower if you miss that window. It's a common trend that you notice when you analyze the Bitcoin charts. In January, Bitcoin was operating within a bear flag. The highest point in the bear flag was $98,000. Bitcoin broke below this area of break even, retested it twice, alongside a retest twice of the bear flag prior support, and then a rejection which led to a drop from $88,000 to $60,000. What is Bitcoin doing today? Well, you're also in a bear flag. You had your highest point so far in the bear flag at 83.2. You got a rejection from the 200 daily moving average, which is something you didn't have there. Arguably, it's more concerning that that's taking place here on the current candles, but you're still finding support at the VWAP blue line. You can call it something like a cost basis for these traders from that low in December. Now, I think Bitcoin has an opportunity to see a little bit of a push to the upside. Like I said in yesterday's video too, we're reaching good price supported support and volume supported support. Okay, so I think it's normal that Bitcoin experiences a little bit of a bounce here. Ultimately though, if Bitcoin loses 75.4 and reaches the 71, 72 support line of the bear flag, then I believe we're cementing a move down to 60K and then even going lower towards Q4, finding the lowest low of the cycle and reversing back to the upside. That's the Bitcoin TA, which I wanted to remind you. Now, when I jump into the bond market is doing things that are unprecedented. President Trump should have normally tackled with the geopolitical situation so that investors could jump back into American debt. Investors don't want to buy up American debt, even the short-term ones, because they are not sure of the long-term sustainability of the conflict and also inflation. Inflation expectations have rocketed. The price of crude oil are still trading at $100. We've seen sulfur go up by 97% since the beginning of this war. Heating oil, 55%. Jet fuel, 58%. Even things like cotton and rice are up over 20%. Global supply chains are being impacted. And we don't know when the resolution is going to come into play. NATO is now saying that if the Strait of Hormuz is not open by July, NATO will have to make a move so that supply chain can be restored. And fuel prices going up don't impact inflation globally. This shows a lack of individual desire to invest, which causes yields to even surge to make them attractive with that premium. Remember, America needs to sell these treasuries so that it can refinance $9.5 trillion of its debt, which is a part of the greater $40 trillion of debt almost. So they need to sell these. If people and institutions don't buy them, then the Treasury ends up buying it. Or the Fed and the Treasury end up repurchasing their own debts. And they can do that by printing money out of thin air, which devalues the dollar. In the long term, it's great for Bitcoin, but in the short term, it hurts risk-on assets. We can see Japan, the second country, IMO, after America, which is very important for global liquidity, their 10-year government bond has surged above 2.8%. It is not the first time in history that the Japanese bonds are doing this, but it's the first time in many decades that this is taking place. Also very concerning, also happened before big crashes. The stock market has closed red. Crypto Kid, you're asking, is this the beginning of the downturn? The massive move down on the S&P? Actually, I don't think so. I think the S&P will distribute over the course of a few months. I don't think the crash will happen out of nowhere. I think that distribution will take place over the course of the next few months. But 2027 is not a year that I'm very excited about. 2028 will probably be better. 2029, probably even better than that. But 2027 and towards the end of this year, I'm not so hyped up when it comes to risk on asset price performance. Remember, inflation expectations are sitting at 5.1%. Pre-geopolitical conflict, Fed Chair Powell and the rest of the Federal Open Market Committee, they were able to bring inflation down to 2.4%. After tariffs, after Russia and Ukraine, after them doubling the money supply in 2020, 2021 to avoid a Great Depression like 1929, inflation went up to 9.1%. They brought it down to 2.4%. Pre-Iran conflict, you were getting close to the 2% mandates. I believe they would have cut rates in 2026 if this whole situation hadn't have happened. Obviously, wars contribute to inflation almost more than anything. So people anticipate 5.1%. CPI, official government reported consumer price inflation, is at 3.8%. 5.1% is easily achievable. If inflation is going up, what can't happen? The Fed cannot cut rates. If the Fed does not cut rates, you're not introducing extensive liquidity into the market where Fed prints magical dollars from their screen digitally. It's exactly what happens. They put these dollars into the reserves of commercial banks. Now with a flood of a bunch of new dollars and interest rates coming closer to 0%, then people can go to the bank, borrow as much dollars as they want to, and pay very little sums per year. They take that money, they invest it. That's not the monetary environment that we're operating within. And it will likely not be the environment we will operate within for a few years. The US 2-year Treasury that determines where the interest is going to be is currently showing us a 25 interest rate hike, 25 basis point hike. Can you imagine Kevin Warsh, the person that President Trump appointed to come to the Fed to cut rates? Imagine he comes in and the first thing he does is to hike rates. Very plausible. I don't think he's going to do QE. He's somebody that has mentioned many times that QE and money printing is not something that he sees as a sustainable benefactor to the economy. So I'm not super bullish as a liquidity analyst on what Kevin Warsh will bring to the table. I think he's going to do the right thing if he hikes the rates. For the economy, it's good. For Bitcoin, it's not great, but If you reduce the rates in a high inflationary place where the labor market is also seeing a bunch of layoffs due to AI, sure, the markets will potentially increase their growth in the short term, but it will lead to much bigger macro downturn consequences. You need to keep that in mind. Currently, the ETFs are selling. BlackRock deposited $450 million of Bitcoin into Coinbase Prime, which is where selling happens, and $55 million of Ethereum into Coinbase Prime 2. ETFs are doing relatively well. They've seen a downturn in total assets under management, but with Bitcoin being 40% below all-time highs, me and James Seyffart, one of the legendary analysts from Bloomberg who look only at ETFs, he thinks that it's also relatively doing well, and I'm going to take his word for it. I'm excited for the future because these ETF buyers like to buy and hold in the long term, and I think they will continue to do that because Bitcoin has solidified and cemented its place as a long-term hedge asset. It's new. There is more risk to it compared to gold because it is newer. Less people understand it, but that's exactly where that asymmetric information delivers an opportunity. So these ETF buyers, the wealth managers, and the advisors that scoop up the IBITS ETF for their clients, they know to keep it long term. So I'm very bullish on the ETFs, even if we have a little bit of selling pressure in the short term. What's happening with the geopolitical conflict? Last night, President Trump stated on Truth Social that this morning there was going to be a planned attack to Iran, but he has delayed this attack in accordance with discussions with Iran's neighboring countries in the Middle East, and that a deal could be made. So he expects a deal to be made, but if it's not made in 2 to 3 days or until early next week, giving you 6 days, giving us 6 days, then he is threatening with more attacks. No idea what's going to happen. We never know what's going to happen. All we can do is pray for peace and pray for this thing to come to the most peaceful resolution as soon as possible. Cuba, Trump seems to be pivoting away into diplomacy. That would be amazing. Cuba is already doing very poorly with electricity, with access to petrol and diesel. The whole city of Havana has not had access to electricity in weeks. People are not using their cars because they don't have petrol. Cuba is in a very bad shape, and I'm praying for the people of Cuba too. I'm wishing that they can get back on their foot ASAP without any military action being involved. The whole plan, and this is purely speculation, if the Strait of Hormuz is not opened until July, NATO is going to kick in. President Trump has wanted to involve international organizations into this conflict from day one. Maybe NATO saying that they would go in if it's not opened by July could be something that Trump wants to leverage. So if he closes the Strait of Hormuz until July, big oil companies will continue to make money in America, whereas the little man, as he describes, the average Joe, will face high oil costs, but he seems that to be insignificant. That's what he said today. He doesn't think that the increase in oil is too impactful. I would beg to disagree. If he keeps it closed until July, then NATO comes in and other organizations step in. He would achieve his goal. I don't know. It's speculation. I hope it gets open soon. We'll all find out together. The US Senate has advanced a measure that would end the US-Iran strikes unless approved by Congress. Let's see. That's not become law yet. That could be an alternative which Congress is considering. With that said, I think this sums up today's video. You can see President Trump mentions the rising gas prices as peanuts and very temporary. But yeah, that is the update for today. So I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it informative. If you did, destroy the like button. It would be super, super valuable. If you're looking for a place to be trading Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, do check out the links to our partners in the description below to get the best bonuses available. We have Bybit, BTCC, Weeks, and others. Check them out to get the best bonuses available. BTCC has the most competitive one currently, and I'll see you all in 24 hours time. Bye-bye, guys.